Rivalries are the main reason that sports are so entertaining. Rival teams, rival players, rival cities, rival countries, rival continents. Although rare, some of the spiciest of rivalries happen when two athletes are on the same team. Today, we're going to be ranking the most brutal and sometimes tragic teammate rivalries in F1. And to help, I am joined by my biggest rival on the entire planet and my old teammate, Nolan John Sykes.
Hello.
Welcome to the garage.
First of all, I want to say you and Antarctica. Thanks for having me on, man.
Oh yeah, dude,
This is
for
cool.
sure. Thanks for doing this. We're just kidding. We aren't really rivals. We're pals.
I know we're like this is a fashion forward kind of like channel. So I apologize for my fit today. Got my Oscar Piastri shirt, my old Lewis Hamilton hat with the FTX logo.
Actually, I'll be right back. Speaking of Grail F1 merch, when was the last time you saw some Prost?
That's sick. Is
Yeah,
that
dude.
like vintage? Is that
Yeah.
real? Wow.
Got it off eBay.
Pretty cool.
The purest form of these same team rivalries has to be in Formula One. Because in other sports, teammates aren't supposed to compete against each other. They're intense, they're petty, and they are extremely dangerous. So we're gonna decide who we think is more wrong. Then we're gonna have the most brutal F1 teammate rivalry.
Sounds good.
We recorded some bumpers.
Okay.
I made these for you with Zach. So hopefully real recognize real. In 2007, McLaren signed two new drivers to their team. First, Fernando Alonso. He was hot off 2 world championships with Renault. He was a star and the presumed #1 driver for the team. In the other car was Lewis Hamilton, a rookie handpicked by team boss Ron Dennis. In the very first race of the season, Hamilton shocked everyone by finishing right behind his senior teammate. As the first half of the season progressed, Hamilton would continue not only to keep up with Alonso, but eventually outperform him too. The first signs of tension really began in Monaco, where due to some unusual pit stop decisions, Lewis began to think that the team was giving Alonso too much preferential treatment, despite the rookie feeling like he had proved himself to be the faster driver.
Hamilton leads momentarily until he's called in for his stop earlier than he expected. The change all but writes off his chances of leapfrogging the leader.
After the team instructed the two drivers to hold their positions, the FIA even investigated whether the team was unfairly trying to prevent Lewis from challenging his teammate. Afterwards, Lewis continued to outperform his teammate. Instead of treating Alonso, the reigning world champion, as their #1 driver, McLaren had said they were giving them equal treatment. And we all know that that's never true. So Alonso actually felt McLaren was treating Lewis more favorably. Things really came to a head at the Hungarian Grand Prix when Lewis disobeyed team orders to let Alonso pass during Q3. Alonso responded by sitting in the pit box, blocking Lewis from being able to put down another flying lap.
But I think the calculation was wrong because my teammate didn't complete the lap and I crossed the line with 2 or 3 seconds, so it was really, really tight.
From that point forward, they were officially rivals. Going into the final race, Lewis led Alonso by just 4 points. Anyone could win the championship, and by just 1 point, they tied for second. Kimi Räikkönen won the championship that year. Alonso ended his contract with McLaren and returned to Renault for 2008, and Lewis went on to win a lot.
Is that the suit you wore to my wedding? Great job telling that story.
Thank you, man. Let's forget everything we know about Lewis Hamilton now.
Yeah.
As far as Fernando Alonso is concerned, I just won the championship back-to-back. I'm leaving my team, starting at a new team. You're feeling about as important as you can possibly feel in any sport.
Yeah.
And you show up and like this new kid is like getting preferential treatment to you. Like it's got to be like a situation of
second place. You know, it's a great finish. I think we're going to keep pushing harder and harder.
We've talked to a fair amount of like race car drivers over the years, and like the really successful ones just have a different mentality.
A mental illness.
Arguably really. So.
Yeah. I think both of these guys were assholes at different times, but I also want to point out, I think McLaren was really bad at managing these two dudes. Lewis felt like Alonso was getting preferential treatment. Alonso felt like Lewis was getting preferential treatment. And from the outside, it seems like they were both right. Like, you set yourself up to, like, just make everybody mad at each other.
So who's the bigger asshole? Oh, whoa, look at that.
We didn't plan that.
No.
Sitting in the pit for 10 seconds to keep him from going out for a final qualifying lap, that's next level. I look at him a little bit differently.
A little bit, but also, you know what? He's in the sport today. He's an icon, I think.
Yeah, you're a big Alonso fan.
I am. I do. I think he's. There's not a lot of other drivers like him.
All right, so pretty bad. Nobody died. I'd say it ranks pretty high.
There we go.
Next rivalry, Carlos Reutemann versus Alan Jones. Williams, 1980.
In 1980, Williams had a dream team. Alan Jones and Carlos Reutemann. Jones had already been with Williams for a couple of years and was clearly team boss Frank Williams' favorite. Reutemann was brought in to be the perfect number 2. We all love a perfect number 2. Fast, reliable, but not expected to rock the boat. In their first season together, things went to plan. Jones won the championship. Reutemann supported him well. At the German Grand Prix, Reutemann even let Jones pass him. But he expected the favor to be returned the following year. That expectation was unjustified, though, because in Reutemann's contract, there was a clause that basically said he had to let Jones pass in certain situations.
And everyone is passing Reutemann, including Jones, who probably delights in lapping the hapless Reutemann.
But in 1981, even though the contract didn't change, Reutemann's attitude certainly did. No more playing second fiddle.
And now he's number 2 to Jones at Williams, which perhaps doesn't please him.
In Brazil, the second race of the season, he flat out ignored team orders and didn't let Jones pass and took the win. Jones was furious, and from that point on, the relationship broke down entirely. The feud was public. The two drivers barely spoke. At Reutemann's home race in Argentina, Alan Jones reportedly needed armed guards. By the end of the season, Jones had no chance to win, but he continued to play mental games with his teammate, tricking him into lining up on the grid in an unfavorable position. How do you do that? I don't know. Ultimately, Reutemann would lose the championship by just 1 point. Jones retired after that year, which had always been the plan. Reutemann returned to Williams in 1982 for only a couple of races before abruptly quitting Formula One altogether. Legend has it, it was from a disillusionment with the political and dangerous nature of the sport. So you got one dude, Reutemann, who in his contract had agreed to be number 2. Then you got Jones, a veteran. It's in his final season. Does a lot of like kind of grumpy stuff in reaction to Reutemann not wanting to be number 2 anymore.
He spends the whole season being a very, very number 2 driver, and then, you know, his mood changes. It's like, fuck that, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I think that's a very normal reaction.
With the position thing, you could choose which side of the track you could line up on. And Jones went to Reutemann and he's like, did you see all that shit out on the track? You can't get any traction. And Reutemann was like, oh, thanks. And he
This idiot doesn't know he just gave me the key.
Yeah. And so he picked the other side of the track, and like 4 dudes just passed him right off the jump. And then he bragged about it in a press conference. For me, Jones did more crummy stuff, but Reutemann did.
He did.
Break the agreement.
He did.
So, who do we think?
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like more around here for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like almost friendly.
I mean, Reutemann did retire after because he's like so psychologically damaged. I think here feels good for now. James, I think there needs to be an adjustment here. James.
Yeah, I don't think any of these are going to be friendly. Maybe testy.
Testy's good. Yeah, good. Totally testy.
Totally testy.
You know, American politics also has some pretty legendary rivalries. Hamilton versus Burr, Bush versus Gore, Cheney versus shotguns, although the shotgun was on his side. Congress versus doing anything. And now, one of the greats we haven't seen in a while might be making a comeback. The Senate versus the President. This one's shaping up to be testy. Possibly even catastrophic. There's a lot of headlines around it, and if you're only reading one of those headlines, you're not getting a full picture. That's where today's sponsor, Ground News, comes in. It shows you how different outlets, left, center, and right, are covering the same event. Like here, Trump's big spending bill spells trouble for the US economy. Or Trump emerges as closer-in-chief to push one big beautiful tax bill through Congress. One sounds like the apocalypse. The other sounds like a win, but neither tells you everything. For this one, Ground News pulls coverage from over 100 different sources. You can see how much came from major media conglomerates, 26%, and how much came from independent outlets, 29%, surprisingly. You can also get a factuality rating. Here, 65% of sources are rated highly factual, so you can actually gauge how seriously to take what you're reading. And there's Ground News' blind spot feed, a running list of stories being blasted by one side of the political spectrum, but mostly ignored by the other. It's like when there's a tense battle going on in the F1 midfield, but the frickin' F1 TV director doesn't cut to it. How are we supposed to see? Well, blind spot shows you what they aren't showing you, but for news. So if you want to know what's actually going on, not just one spin, use what I use Ground News. The Nobel Peace Center has called it an excellent way to stay informed, avoid echo chambers, and expand your worldview. Go to groundnews.com/speed to get 40% off the Vantage plan. That gets you unlimited access to global news for only $5 a month. That's like subscribing to one Substack. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description to subscribe. Ground News, know the story, not just the spin. Speaking of spinning, back to you, Nolan. All right, next rivalry. Mark Webber versus Sebastian Vettel. Red Bull, 2007 to 2013.
Wow.
In 2009, Sebastian Vettel was the first driver to graduate from Red Bull's junior team to the varsity Red Bull team to join Australian Mark Webber. But it wasn't all roses and pigeons' feet for these two, because they had already clashed before. Like all of our stories so far, Webber was the veteran and Vettel was the new kid in town. By 2010, the title fight was on, and so was the tension. In Turkey, both drivers were leading when Vettel tried to pass and the two collided. Vettel blamed Webber, and the team sided with Vettel.
Sebastian made his feelings abundantly clear.
Webber was furious.
Yeah, it's the first time in my career that we've had a problem with a teammate.
The cracks widened later that season when Webber won in Silverstone using an old front wing after the team gave the only new spec to Vettel. When he crossed the line, Webber radioed, "Not bad for a number 2 driver." Petty. Vettel became Red Bull's favorite child, and he just outdrove Webber for the next 4 years. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't tension. In 2013 at the Malaysian Grand Prix, Red Bull told both drivers to hold position, codenamed Multi-21. Vettel ignored the call, passed Webber aggressively, and took the win. Webber was livid, Vettel unapologetic, and the trust between them was shattered.
Multi-21, Seb. Yeah, Multi-21.
That year would be Webber's last in Formula One, and Seb stuck around for another decade with varying degrees of success, but nothing came close to those 4 years of domination. Back to you in the studio, Nolan.
Oh, wow, thanks.
So they were teammates from 2009 to 2013, but for 2 years before they were teammates, they had beef.
The beef was simmering, though.
Yeah, beef was simmering, and then they were like, now he's my roommate?
He's my stepbrother?
Oh, I hate this freaking guy. But it didn't end like a movie. It ended poorly. Like, it sort of feels like a one-sided rivalry. Sebastian Vettel's like so much obviously better than Webber in this season. So if Mark Webber's not competing with Sebastian Vettel, then he's just hating his teammate.
It is weird because, like, in that situation where if it was any other car coming out of the pit that Seb gets behind, it's like, yeah, you're going to chase him down. You're going to go for that pass. They have a plan. They're like, okay, Mark's in front.
Yeah.
We're going to get some good results here, good points for the team. And Mark will get a win. That'll keep him happy, you want to keep your drivers happy,
Make
whatever.
some money.
But Seb is like, yo, we're racing right now. This
Yeah.
is a race. Like, why can't I go past? Which fair play to him.
I agree. This is a tough one, man. I see the team's perspective.
Yeah.
See the management's perspective. I see Sebastian Vettel's perspective. I don't think anyone's a bad guy.
Yeah.
I feel bad for whoever.
Me too.
But I know. It's a hard one.
It's tough. We both said Seb.
Yeah, I 180'd in my own brain. At the beginning of this, I was totally prepared to be like Mark Webber for sure. But
Yeah.
then as we just got into it, it's like Sebastian Vettel was being a little shithead.
But, vindicated. He's great. Yeah.
And as far as it goes, I think it's sort of like didn't really cost anybody anything.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate.
But fun. Definitely fun.
Very, dude, that clip with the water bottle. Drivers, they all have that stupid water bottle with the straw curled up.
it's
And
so embarrassing. Yeah, and it's like a curl.
I know. It's like, why is it that long?
All right. This one's old and sad. Phil Hill versus Wolfgang von Trips, Ferrari, 1961.
In 1961, Ferrari had the fastest car and two drivers gunning for the title. Phil Hill, the calm and calculated American, and Wolfgang von Trips, the charismatic German aristocrat. You know, that old adage? Detailed scientific American and fun-loving German? The team did not play favorites. Whoever was the fastest would be champion. Von Trips had more flair. Hill had more consistency. The two traded wins and podiums all season, with Von Trips slightly ahead in points as they arrived at Monza, the penultimate round. A good result there could seal the championship for him. But tragedy struck on the second lap. As Von Trips defended his position from Jim Clark, the two cars touched. Von Trips' Ferrari veered off track and into the crowd. He and 15 spectators were killed instantly. Jeez. The race went on. Phil Hill won it, and in doing so, secured the world championship. Hill was crowned the first American F1 world champion, but there was no celebration. He later said he would have given up the title if it meant Von Trips would have lived. Ferrari withdrew from the final race of the season. Hill won Monza and the F1 championship, but the experience changed him. The final year, he reportedly said, "I am in the wrong business. I don't want to beat anybody. I don't want to be the big hero. I am no longer willing to risk killing myself." He continued in F1 for 4 more years, but never again won a race.
Dude, 15 spectators and a driver
That's wild.
died. And then they're like, should we keep it going?
It's pretty cool when they go around the track, right?
Yeah, so this one, obviously tragic.
It wasn't like, I'm going to force my teammate off the track to go for the win.
They were very friendly competitors, and then there was some sort of mix-up with team strategy. Von Trips didn't let Phil Hill pass, and Phil Hill vowed to never talk to him again, and 2 weeks later he wrecked and died.
Wow, it's terrible.
You should, if you're waiting to make up with a friend, maybe just do it.
Do it.
Because they could take out 15 spectators.
Oh my God.
It could happen next week. Yeah, I don't think this one was like that big of a rivalry, but it was tragic.
Very tragic, yeah.
I mean, maybe we should give this one its own area.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. What do you got next for us, huh?
Lewis Hamilton versus Nico Rossberg.
What was that?
When Mercedes built a car no one could touch in 2014, it lit the fuse on one of the most explosive teammate rivalries ever. Lewis Hamilton, already a world champion. You remember that. And Nico Rossberg, the meticulous, sweet German boy with something to prove. The two had been friends since karting, but sadly, their friendship wouldn't last. Bahrain set the tone that Mercedes was willing to let their two drivers fight for position.
Back at the front and still the Mercedes battle.
In Monaco, things heated up as Lewis was convinced that Rossberg deliberately sabotaged his qualifying session.
We should have pitted on that lap. I knew I should have.
Lewis drove really, really well and pushed me massively hard, so the pressure was on all the way.
Seems to be happening a lot to old Lewis. In Hungary, Lewis then ignored team orders to let Nico pass due to being on a different strategy.
Okay, Lewis, if you let Nico pass this lap, please. Let Nico pass.
I'm not slowing down for Nico. You can get close and overtake, then you can overtake.
In Belgium, they finally collided.
Nico hit me. Nico's hit me.
Lewis beat Nico in 2014 by a reasonable margin.
But yeah, congratulations to Lewis. He deserves to be champion this year.
But in 2015, he crushed him. 2015 was also the year of the famous hat throw in Austin, the most violent example of driver-on-driver aggression that we've ever seen. But the rivalry was never more intense than in 2016 when Nico showed up with a relentless win at all costs mindset. The battles got dirty. Spain, they collided on the first lap.
The simmering team battle boiled over in the most dramatic way possible.
Austria, they collided on the final lap.
It was victory for Hamilton, but frustration for Mercedes after another self-inflicted wound.
In Malaysia, Hamilton suspected a conspiracy against him.
It's very hard to stand here and be all positive. Yeah, it's going to be great because, you know, I'm the only one with Mercedes engines that have been failing this year.
And finally, in Abu Dhabi, Lewis tried sabotaging Nico by backing him up into Sebastian Vettel despite team orders pleading for Lewis to pick up the pace.
Right now, I'm losing the world championship, so I really can't do it if I win or lose this race.
Rosberg won the title by 5 points, then immediately retired, having beaten his rival once and not wanting to go through it again. Their friendship never recovered. Back to you, James and Nolan.
This rivalry was full of so many famous moments. And it's also, a guy who's still very relevant.
Yeah.
Like breaking up with his best friend.
There's so many pictures of these guys, like, as kids, karting together.
Yeah.
So, people kind of give Nico shit sometimes for, like, dipping out and not defending his title. But if you're in it for, like, 20 years at that point, racing against the same guy over and over and then finally winning, it's just like...
I'm going to go out on top, dude.
Yeah,
I'm done.
I understand it.
I think that's a cool way to end it. It's like James Hunt. Like, you win, and you're like, I'm done. You also felt how hard it was to do it.
Yeah.
And Lewis Hamilton is famously one of the nicest, most empathetic, caring guys in sports. But with a competitor, he's like, yeah, it's nice that he's won one, I guess. I've won all of them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Can we watch that clip of the hat throw?
Okay, big hug.
Okay.
Oh my God. What's fascinating about that clip, though, I think, is like the context of them having been around each other so much from such a young age. Like, you see him throw that hat, and the look he has on his face is like a look you'd see on someone, like a 13-year-old throwing a hat at their brother or something.
It looks like
that.
cousins.
Yeah, very.
Like, it reminds me of
yes.
me and my cousin in his basement.
Yeah.
Like, the type of, like, I am only able to hate you this much because I know everything about you. In Abu Dhabi, Lewis literally backed Nico up to try and get him past.
It's crazy.
There's no honor in that, right?
I think that's a pretty dick move, honestly.
Yeah.
I love Lewis. Lewis is my favorite, but like, based on this evidence presented before me,
Right.
not looking good. Sir Lewis. I also said Lewis with an asterisk.
This is as close to a just straight up rivalry as we've had.
Yeah, I think so, because it's very personal and also long, just like a lifetime in the making at that point. You know?
You know what? I kind of want to add another.
Okay.
This one was iconic.
I know. I would actually love to see a movie about that.
Dude. Next up, Nigel Mansell versus Nelson Piquet.
Williams in the mid-'80s had an absolute monster of a car and 2 massive egos to go with it. Nigel Mansell was the fearless British fan favorite. Nelson Piquet was the calculated Brazilian, already a 2-time world champion. Piquet joined in 1986 expecting #1 status, but Williams gave them equal equipment and told them to fight it out. Why does this keep happening? It's a bad idea. Piquet began leaking Mansell's car setups to the press and belittling him in interviews. When talking about Piquet, Mansell said, "He's got all the ingredients to be a great person. It's just that he chooses not to be." When talking about Mansell, Piquet said, and I'm not going to do a voice, Mansell is argumentative, he's rude, and he's got a really ugly wife.
Oh my God.
At the British Grand Prix, Mansell won the race while driving Piquet's spare car and overtaking Piquet on track despite the team's hold station signals.
Mansell had not only won on his home ground, he was leading the World Championship for the first time. And he had done all this in a car borrowed from Piquet, who was less than thrilled.
Then came Adelaide, the final race. All Mansell needed was a podium to seal the title, and Piquet was in striking distance as well. But Mansell's tire exploded at over 180 miles per hour. Piquet was then brought in for a precautionary stop, and Alain Prost swept through to win the race and the championship. That's a very cool shirt you're wearing there, James.
Thank you. Thank you. Get out of here.
I haven't seen a lot of Alain Prost merch. Did you find that on eBay? This keeps happening. The two guys fighting it out and both losing. In 1987, Piquet focused on consistency and strategy. So the feud moved away from on-track battles towards off-track smack talk. Mansell ended up crashing at the Japanese Grand Prix, which put him out for the final 2 races. Piquet's strategy of just finishing races and picking up points did ultimately lead to him winning the championship. And even though his teammate was injured from the accident, Piquet still referred to him as an uneducated blockhead.
So Piquet was like really involved in the car setup, and he was prided himself on understanding like the engineering of cars, and Mansell was not. And so for Mansell to beat Piquet in his spare car was like a real spit in the face.
I could see that.
They were both pretty out of line.
Dude, calling his wife that's crazy.
Yeah.
And Mansell really prided himself on being like
Dumb.
the British everyman. Mansell got beat up over the course of driving
Dude,
these cars.
Everyman. He's like the Rocky of racing.
I mean, I think he certainly saw himself with that, and Piquet probably took umbrage with that. But I still can't get over him calling Mansell's wife ugly. That's up.
All right, so who's the bigger bad guy?
Yeah. You know what? I don't feel bad about this. Piquet.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, as someone with a wife, I was hoping that you I think this one's like the definition of testy.
I'll agree with that.
You know,
yeah.
like they didn't really do anything to each other except call each other names. But it was contentious.
Contestious.
Yeah. Max Verstappen versus Daniel Ricardo.
Oh.
Yeah. The only one with someone that we've met.
Yeah.
When 18-year-old Max Verstappen was promoted to Red Bull in 2016, he made history, winning his first race with the team in Spain. Suddenly, Daniel Ricardo, who had been the team's rising star and had already beaten Sebastian Vettel, had a new, younger threat in the garage. At first, the relationship was playful. Ricardo was the smiling assassin, Verstappen, the fearless prodigy. But beneath the jokes and handshakes, attention grew. Verstappen was aggressive and relentless, willing to go wheel to wheel with his own teammate. Ricardo had the experience and consistency, but Max had raw, electrifying speed. In 2017, the gloves started to come off. Verstappen suffered more mechanical failures, but when the car held up, he was often faster. Ricardo won in Baku, but only after both Red Bulls collided earlier in the race. The breaking point came at Azerbaijan in 2018, when the two crashed into each other at high speed.
They've gone into each other!
Both were taken out.
It's bad for the team, and I think that's already bad enough. it's a pretty crappy situation.
Team management blamed them equally, but privately, Ricardo felt the team was favoring Max in strategy, development, and long-term investment.
I want to get out of here, to be honest. If Barcelona wasn't clear, this one was crystal clear.
By mid-2018, Ricardo had made his decision. Despite having offers to stay at Red Bull, he shocked the paddock by signing with Renault. Ricardo walked away before it turned ugly. Verstappen stayed and became Red Bull's future. And we all know how that story turned out.
Pretty well.
Yeah, pretty well for Max.
Yeah, pretty well for Max. Man, this one's tough because I feel really bad for Daniel.
Me too.
You know? Yeah, I mean, Daniel for a long time was kind of like seen as he's going to get that championship.
Yeah.
It's going to happen for him. And then, this Dutch kid who only cares about racing comes in and becomes his teammate and then just like destroys his life.
I think if Daniel would have stayed at Red Bull, he would have won a number of Constructors' Championships. He would have been like second, and had a real shot at beating Max one of those years.
Maybe,
for sure, and gotten his own championship. Will you tell us the story of getting your mini fridge signed by Daniel Ricardo?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we were at the donut office. Some of our coworkers were like friends with Daniel, and they were like, "Hey, we're having lunch with Daniel over in Venice." So I'm like, "Hey, Jacob, like I have like a Red Bull mini fridge." Like,
he's like, "No way, you do."
Could I like bring it by and have Daniel sign it? And he's like, "Yeah." Like he didn't have to say yes. Thank you, but he did. And then he comes out. I had to like awkwardly like hold.
He came to the car.
Came to the Mustang. He's like, "I've never signed a mini fridge before," and I still have it.
Who's the bad guy?
Oh, bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh. Whoa.
Obviously, Daniel, very talented guy.
Very talented guy,
but it felt like he never got enough time to like settle in and like focus on becoming the world champ that he was supposed to be. You know.
But I do want to say that like I don't think Max is like the bad guy, but he is like quite the villain in this story. Just like this faceless, reckless little Dutch kid who shows up and he's all like computer aided and like his dad is a guy and like Daniel is like the exact opposite. He's like this like Texas loving, smiley Australian handsome guy, and he's just like, what the crap is going on here? And just like I think it's pretty testy. I mean, it's more than testy.
Would you say it's a situation chip?
Oh, like championship?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, make it racing.
That is a lot of letters. Love it.
Yeah. I mean, this is really starting to make sense. Yeah. It's really starting to come together, and I think we're on to something here. Just in time to get into our final rivalry. Man. One of the most famous and greatest, most contentious rivalries in all of sports, much less F1. We are talking about Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna.
When Senna joined McLaren in 1988, he and Prost had the best car by far. At first, there was mutual respect. Senna was pure speed and intensity. Prost was strategic, calculating, and politically sharp. Senna won 8 races to Prost's 7, and he took the title. But behind the scenes, tension was simmering. Prost believed the team was favoring Senna, especially after controversial moments like Estoril, where Senna aggressively chopped across him at 180 miles per hour.
Senna takes the lead.
In 1989, the year that Taylor Swift was born, Prost was done playing fair. The relationship broke down entirely. At Imola, Senna broke a pre-race agreement not to overtake into turn 1.
Prost was livid with Senna for having broken that agreement that the pair had over the first corner. Whoever led would not be overtaken by second man.
Prost never forgave him. The tension exploded at Suzuka. Senna needed to win to stay in the title fight. He drove for a gap at the chicane. They collided. Prost retired.
That was the controversial incident of the season.
Senna was somehow able to rejoin the race and won, but he was disqualified for re-entering the track illegally. The title went to Prost, who left for Ferrari.
The stress was absolutely unbelievable this year, and I had my worst year in Formula One.
Even though they were no longer on the same team, we have to keep talking about this rivalry because it's one of the greatest ones in all of sports. Nolan, I'm sure you won't mind.
No, I don't mind.
The next year, same place, same stakes. This time, Senna didn't leave it to chance. At turn 1, he drove straight into Prost, taking them both out and securing the championship. He later admitted that it was deliberate, blaming the FIA for moving pole position to the dirty side of the track. Their rivalry was one of the most epic the sport, or any sport, has ever seen. ESPN, give me a call. Hell, Barstool, call me.
Part of the reason why people really don't like Alain Prost, he was very good at racing the rule book, but also just a really good politician.
Ideally, he would love to not have to go to the stewards to make an appeal to like win, but it's like that same competitive drive that we talked about with like Lewis Hamilton and like all these guys have to compete at that level.
Yeah.
Sometimes the thing that it takes to win is like going to a steward and being like, hey, actually, I think he went in the wrong way.
It's not about being a better driver. It's about being a better competitor.
Right, yeah. The average person feels a lot deeper connection and like romance with the guy who they think is just like, oh, he just like drives with his heart.
Mm-hmm.
Because like in a way it's like, that's a much more likely situation for me.
Yeah. I've got RPF 1s on my Acura TSX, so I could do that.
Like you need a competitor to be great.
Yeah.
And so I think this is definitely an example of two guys who made each other better and made the sport a lot more exciting to watch. So with that in mind, all right.
What? You know?
I'm going James.
Yeah, for my cop out. Prost was kind of a dick, but Senna was also a dick, and I think they're both just like very competitive guys. No bad guys, double hero, F your booze. You know what? Legendary.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Wow.
And there you have it. Makes perfect sense. Thank you guys for watching this video. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. Nolan, thanks so much for coming and guesting on our channel.
Yeah, anytime.
It's nice to F around with you again, bro. Do you have a YouTube channel or anything?
Yeah, we got a little channel called Donut, or you can follow me on Instagram at Nolan J. Sykes if you'd like.
Go to speed.co. We got a bunch of crap going on. Oh, tell me who your favorite rivalry is. Who is your biggest rival? Let me know in the comments. All right, I love you guys. Bye.